Number 9. Eaten by pit bulls. Days before Christmas in 2017, a concerned father found his daughter's lifeless body on the floor of her Goochland, Virginia home. Something horrific had happened to 22-year-old Bethany Lynn Stevens. Sheriff James Agnew told the local station WILX that in trying to capture the young woman's 2 pit bulls, Tonka and Pac-Man, he and 4 other members of law enforcement saw them eating her rib cage. They also found Bethany's cell phone broken in half and covered in bite marks. There was a person who they considered to be a threat to Stevens, but an autopsy ruled out homicide as her cause of death. Detectives traced Bethany's last moments and found no signs of suspicious activity, at least not by humans. She didn't have any broken bones, and her body bore no signs of strangulation or sexual assault. But she had clear defensive wounds that suggested she fought against her dogs that ultimately mauled her to death. A neighbor reported hearing screams on the evening Bethany died, but said that they brushed it off. In hindsight, she was in distress, and all signs pointed towards the woman's dogs as her killers. The tragedy didn't make sense to those who described Tonka and Pac-Man as peaceful and well-socialized canines, but it soon came to light that the pair had been at the center of many police reports in the days leading up to Bethany's death. It appeared that the dogs had become neglected and isolated during that time. The sudden lifestyle changes might explain why they got so aggressive. In the end, both dogs had to be euthanized to prevent a similar incident from happening in the future. Number 8. Hot-tempered hippopotamus. Marius Els was a South African farmer who rescued a baby hippopotamus from a river and raised it as a pet. He named the creature Humphrey, and the two developed a tight bond. Over the years, many had often seen the pair and photographed them together, with Marius even riding on top of the hippo's back. But this closeness came at a grave cost to the 40-year-old Marius, who was found dead in a river in 2011. Marius had Humphrey for over 5 years. By then, Humphrey had grown to over 2,000 pounds. It appeared as though he had bitten his caretaker repeatedly and dragged him into the water. Marius admitted in previous interviews when he was alive that he knew it was, in his words, a little dangerous to keep a hippo as a pet. But he trusted Humphrey completely and accused naysayers of not understanding their special bond. Sadly, Marius had overestimated his ability to domesticate the wild animal. Even his wife had grown concerned about Humphrey, who had reportedly developed aggressive tendencies. In one instance, the massive hippo chased 2 people into a tree. Hippos kill more humans than we realize, according to a 2011 Guardian article about the tragedy, which pointed out that the creatures caused more deaths than lions and elephants combined. Number 7. Crushed by a python. One night in 2013, Noah and Connor Barth spent the night at their friend's apartment in New Brunswick, Canada, as they had many times before. While the 4- and 6-year-old boys were asleep, a 14-foot-long African rock python escaped from its cage and slithered into an air duct. The vent collapsed under the 100-pound reptile's weight, and the snake landed directly on top of Noah and Connor. Jean-Claude Savoy, the father of the friend the boys were visiting, discovered their bodies and called the police. Sadly, it was too late to save the brothers. The attack covered them in blood and puncture wounds. An autopsy revealed that they died from asphyxiation. Police charged Savoy with criminal negligence. Prosecutors claimed the snake had a history of aggressive behavior and escaping its enclosure. They accused Savoy of not having the proper license to own the creature, and also blamed him for failing to prevent a needless tragedy. According to court testimony from a man at the scene, Constable Stéphane Dugas, he said something had agitated the python. After Savoy returned it to its cage, it reportedly made growling noises and lunged at the glass. Experts testified it was rare for a rock python to act so viciously, and that the species isn't known for going on random killing sprees, leading prosecutors to bring up the possibility of foul play. Savoy's lawyer argued his client believed the snake was too big to fit into the air duct, so he saw no reason to secure it. Snake expert John Kendrick told CBS News that a startled python will grab onto anything nearby for stability, including people. Savoy was ultimately found innocent of any wrongdoing in the boys' deaths. Number 6. Too close for comfort. In 2020, an Argentinian teenager named Lara Sanson did an impromptu photo shoot with a friend's German Shepherd. She put her arm around the dog and began snapping pictures, and that's when the canine suddenly bit her in the face. Lara went to the emergency room, where she underwent a 2-hour surgery and received 40 stitches around her eye and inside her mouth. She posted graphic photos of her injuries on Twitter, along with the caption, "A photo shoot goes wrong." The teen told the local newspaper La Nación that initially she didn't feel any pain when the dog bit her. She also said that she didn't think the elderly canine attacked her out of deliberate aggression, but because she had just scared it or had accidentally touched the dog's sensitive hip on accident. For these reasons, they spared the dog from being euthanized. Either way, Lara wasn't bitter about the incident. At the time she spoke with the press, she reported that her recovery was going well, aside from some inflammation and difficulties eating. Number 5. Chimpanzee gone wild. In 1967, a West Covina, California resident named St. James Davis returned from a trip to Africa with a living souvenir, a baby chimpanzee named Mo. Davis and his wife, LaDonna, spent the next 3 decades raising the chimp in their home outside Los Angeles. They cared for Mo as if it were a human child, giving him his own bedroom and dressing him in cute outfits. Not everyone was on board with the Davises keeping a wild animal in their home. They actually lost custody of Mo in 1999 after he bit a woman's finger, and he was moved to a private sanctuary where the couple regularly visited him. They were celebrating Mo's birthday in 2005 when a pair of large male chimpanzees broke out of their cages and attacked St. James. LaDonna hid behind a picnic table while the pair bit into her husband's face, gouged one of his eyes out, mangled his left foot, and bit off his nose, genitals, and several of his fingers. St. James survived, but it left him severely disfigured, wheelchair-bound, and unable to care for himself. He had a gaping hole in his face and a permanently destroyed foot. He suffered excruciating pain and endured dozens of reconstructive surgeries. The couple continued to visit Mo, who they moved to a different sanctuary after the horrifying ordeal. But he mysteriously disappeared from his cage in 2007. He was never found, despite an exhaustive search effort involving helicopters and bloodhounds. Number 4. Killer Camel. Pamela Weaver was an animal lover who raised goats, kangaroos, emus, rabbits, and other creatures at her home in the Australian outback. For her 60th birthday, her husband Noel bought her a baby camel. She formed a close bond with her new pet, but the camel's behavior became erratic. He developed a habit of trying to straddle other animals at the farm, and eventually did it to Pamela with catastrophic results. It happened when she was in the middle of cooking dinner and enjoying her afternoon tea. Noel found his wife dead on the floor of their home with hoof prints on her face. The camel was running loose on the patio. Detectives concluded that the 10-month-old creature had tried to mount his owner, knocking her over. He then stomped on her until she was dead. Camel expert Chris Hill, who has over 20 years of experience working with the animals, told the press that while camels are typically non-aggressive, they can become dangerous when raised as pets. Pamela's family decided not to euthanize the camel that killed her, and Noel expressed his forgiveness toward the animal at his wife's funeral. Number 3. Dangerous domesticated deer. People are often tempted to feed adorable wild animals, especially if they seem harmless, but these good intentions backfired on an entire community in El Paso County, Colorado in 2020, when a deer approached a woman who was out walking her dog. She assumed the creature wanted a cuddle and reached towards him, only to receive a sharp jab in the abdomen from his antlers. When she realized she was being attacked, the woman dropped her dog and grabbed the deer's antlers. They fell to the ground, and the creature repeatedly gored her. Eventually, she was able to get back on her feet, but the deer followed and continued to attack her as she ran towards the garage. She punched in the security code, ran inside, and wedged herself between 2 cars, where the animal couldn't get to her. She had to receive medical treatment for cuts to her head, cheek, and legs. After the brutal assault, a deer with blood-covered antlers walked right up to a Colorado Parks and Wildlife officer outside the woman's home. To prevent more people from getting hurt, the officer put the animal down. An investigation revealed that at least one of the victim's neighbors fed the 1.5-year-old buck, which explained why the animal wasn't afraid of humans. Officers also expected a nearby resident of having raised the deer after finding him orphaned. CPW Area Wildlife Manager Frank McGee described the ordeal as another sad example of what happens when people feed wildlife. He explained wild animals become dangerous when they get used to being around humans, which is why it's illegal to feed deer in Colorado, and why the authorities encourage people to make them feel uncomfortable when they venture into residential areas. Number 2. Baby-hating ferrets. During the 2015 holiday season, Jessica Benellis left her 1-month-old daughter Sky in her car seat on the floor of their Darby Borough, Pennsylvania home. She ran upstairs to use the bathroom and wasn't gone for very long. During the mother's brief absence, 2 of the family's ferrets escaped from their cage and attacked Sky. They ripped 25% of the little girl's face off. The baby's father, Bernie Frame, woke to the sound of his daughter screaming. He and Jessica rushed downstairs and found Sky with severe injuries to her lips, nose, and other parts of her face. They rushed the infant to the hospital, where doctors performed life-saving surgery. She underwent many reconstructive surgeries in the coming years. They euthanized the ferrets, but the authorities placed a large amount of the blame on Sky's parents, who had 5 young children in their care when the attack happened. Investigators described the couple's home as deplorable and claimed it was infected with insects. They charged the pair with child endangerment and barred them from having any contact with their kids while the case played out in court. Benellis and Frame argued that they were excellent parents who made a simple mistake, even though they were already under the supervision of 7 caseworkers from 3 different social services agencies when the attack occurred. Number 1. Pitbull versus Spaniel. In 2018, a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel named Buckles got the scare of a lifetime when a pitbull that wasn't on its leash viciously attacked him. The 5-year-old canine and his owner Abby were walking to a park in New York City's Washington Heights neighborhood, minding their own business. Things took a horrifying turn when they crossed paths with the unleashed pitbull, who went into an unprovoked rage and sadly took it out on Buckles. The pit clamped its powerful jaws down on the much smaller dog's throat and legs. Abby also suffered scratches from the ferocious canine while trying to defend Buckles. Eventually, a man noticed what was happening and rushed over to help. He put a leash on the pitbull and led the dog away, saying nothing. In the meantime, Abby rushed Buckles to the vet. The attack left Buckles with some pretty painful injuries, including a disfigured jaw. The poor dog had a long road to recovery ahead of him, but thankfully he survived. He even got his own Instagram account, which documented the harrowing ordeal and the healing process that followed, including reconstructive surgery, along with the wires and tubes in his jaw. After the attack, the NYPD put out word that they were searching for the pitbull's owner. Even though they expected Buckles to recover physically, his guardians were concerned that he might have had a more difficult time overcoming the emotional trauma it left him with. They told local station ABC 30 that Buckles was a rescue dog with a history of abuse, and that he had only recently started trusting humans and other animals again. Thanks for watching. Would you rather arrive home to find that your dog had demolished your furniture, or realize that you had thrown away a winning $500 lottery ticket and it was too late to retrieve it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.